Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you fantasy footballers out there, and a very warm welcome into week 5 of the Banged Up Podcast. Lee here with the IDP show, and it's always a pleasure to see you back here again. Haven't been able to jump in front of the camera from the last few weeks, but alas, the boy is back. If you're a YouTube person, the IDP show drops my podcast in their after show lineup. Subscribe to those emails whenever the podcast gets sent out, which uncoincidentally is the same time as the YouTube video drops. If you're a Potter, go ahead and give the YouTube video a shot. Search up the IDP show on YouTube and you'll see me there. Now, without further ado, let's jump into the good stuff. Starting with the IR. The good news is there's no IR updates for the offensive side of the ball. However, over on defense, David Ojabo, edge rusher for the Baltimore Ravens. Head coach John Harbaugh said there is a good shot that the edge rusher may not return from injured reserve this season, which is bad for all you Ojabo owners out there. And lastly, Matthew Judon, edge rusher for the Patriots, is scheduled to undergo surgery and is expected to miss at least 2 months with the bicep rupture there. The only doubtful for this week is Lions star wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown. He hasn't practiced all week due to an abdomen injury that he picked up last Thursday. Even with the extra few days of rest, it sounds like he couldn't make it happen this week. He was still trying to get out on the field and play late into this week. He's listed as doubtful currently. He's not going to play. There's less than a 5% chance that doubtfuls play. I'm still up in the air about his status next week as he didn't practice all week. I want to see him, start off at least with some sort of limited session for me to feel okay about it. But again, it's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He might miss 2 practices next week, be listed as questionable next week, and then run the field. So we'll monitor the status next week. Looking at players who are ruled out for week 5, we'll start off on offense with Titans wide receiver Treylon Burks. He's missed all week with a knee injury. This is going to be his second missed game in a row. This doesn't make me confident for his chances next week either, although head coach Mike Vrabel was quoted saying he doesn't think this is going to be a long-term injury. We'll see how that goes. So missing next week would make that, three weeks in a row? What's long-term? We're gonna say long-term is 4 weeks. So if he hits 4 weeks in a row, Mike Vrabel is a liar, and we have it on paper that he's a liar. Over on defense, Fletcher Cox for the Philadelphia Eagles, defensive tackle. He's missing week 5 with a back injury. He hasn't practiced all week, which doesn't make me feel good about his chances next week either. Odafe Oweh, Ravens edge rusher, missing this week with an ankle, who also missed last week. He might miss next week with an ankle, who knows. Greg Rousseau, Anthony Rizzo, rotisserie chicken. Greg Rousseau, Bills edge rusher, dealing with a foot issue. He's going to miss this week. Should just be 1 game, says the reports, but of course we'll monitor his status for next week. Indianapolis Colts edge rusher, Kwity Paye, concussed. Christian Harris, Houston Texans linebacker, concussed. Shaq Leonard, Indianapolis Colts, dealing with a groin issue. Oh, Shaquille, how I miss the old you. You're so beaten up now. He can't stay healthy. Not practicing all week, not playing this week, might not play next week. Let's take a moment of silence. Brian Branch, Lions defensive back, dealing with the ankle injury that he injured last Thursday. It looked nasty, but he came in briefly before leaving again. My guess is that it's going to be a high ankle, looking like he's going to be out for a few weeks. And lastly, out, Sidney Brown, Philadelphia Eagles defensive back, dealing with a hamstring injury. He was limited all week, but couldn't get it going. Good news is he didn't miss any practices, so he does have potential to see the field next week. Looking at the questionable designations for this week, we'll start off with Saints quarterback Derek Carr, still dealing with a shoulder injury. If you're in a 16-man Superflex league and need to start him, I'm sure he's going to rack up a whopping 4 points for you this week. Ravens running back Justice Hill, dealing with the foot and hamstring combo. He did get in a full practice on Friday after being limited. He will see the field, albeit probably some limited productivity reduction for the 3 carries he's going to get the whole game. Javonte Williams, Denver Broncos running back, dealing with a quad issue. It looks like the Jaleel McLaughlin hype could be shut down early, as Javonte was a full practice in Friday. He did leave last week's game with that quad injury, but he should be ready to roll this week. Lions running back Jahmyr Gibbs, dealing with a hamstring injury that just popped up in practice yesterday. Never like to see that late in the week, but hopefully he can return to his full form where he snags 7 touches a game while David Montgomery continues to dominate that backfield. Packers running back Aaron Jones still dealing with the hamstring injury. He was limited to start off this week ahead of his Monday night matchup. After only 1 reception and limited touches, I wouldn't start him until he gives you a reason to. If he does play this week, I expect him to be limited again ahead of the Packers week 6 bye. Colts running back Jonathan Taylor, coming back off the PUP list from the ankle injury. Was he ever actually hurt? Was the Irsay Whalegate an inside job? Did Taylor Swift's PR team successfully execute the most devious Google search plan of all time to hide her carbon footprint? It's all a mystery. But what isn't a mystery is that JT was full in practice all week. So start that guy. Rhamondre Stevenson, running back for the New England Patriots. Rhamondre Stevenson, running back for the Patriots, questionable with a thigh issue. He's been limited all week. I think he sees the field, but temper expectations just a bit if you're still starting Rhamondre. Running back for the Big Blue Boys, Saquon Barkley. He was a long shot to play last week coming off that ankle injury. However, does have a pretty good chance to play after being limited. This one's tough. What I would suggest is paying attention to the practice reports that are going to come out 90 minutes before the game. The good news is that he's the early slot, so it's going to be 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern time. It's going to give you plenty of time to make that decision, to get backups if you need them. If he does play, I'm going to feel comfortable enough playing Saquon there. It's Saquon Barkley. You drafted him to be that guy, so you might as well throw him in there. But I'm not going to be mad at you if you decide to go another route. T. Higgins, wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals, dealing with a rib issue. He didn't practice all week, and if you haven't found a reason to avoid T. Higgins yet, this is your sign to do so. Jameson Williams, Detroit Lions wide receiver. I believe the line is currently set at -100 for Jameson Williams to play via a coach's decision. I'm going to take those odds, but don't start him until you see what he's about. Packers wide receiver Christian Watson still dealing with a hamstring issue, which he put up 2 and 20-something and a tutty last week in that limited role. He's likely to get more snaps and looks this week. I think he's a decent flex play, but he won't quite be 100%. If you've got another option, I'm not going to be mad if you go with the switch up from Christian Watson, as he's the Monday night game with a bye next week. Jags wide receiver Zay Jones, even if he's back, don't even think about it until he proves he's an asset. Davante Adams, Raiders wide receiver, dealing with a shoulder issue. This one sucks because he's the Monday night game. He played through injury last week and still went 8 for 75, had a decent outing. I think he's going to be limited in the game a bit, but I mean, it's Davante Adams. He'll have the handsomest damn man in the land back at quarterback, throwing him the ball, slinging him the rock. In a game against the Cheeseheads, nonetheless, I think he plays. Pay attention to the practice report later today and do have a backup option available. Over on the defensive side of the ball, questionable Von Miller, Bills edge rusher, coming back from the torn ACL last year. He estimated himself that there was a 94.5% chance he's back on the field. I don't know how or where he got his numbers, but I've never been known to not trust Von Miller. I wouldn't start him though until he, shows that he's so back. Trey Hendrickson, Cincinnati Bengals edge rusher, dealing with a back issue. He was fine all week and then decided he wanted to tweak his back and not practice at all on Friday. This is super last minute. There's not a lot of information. It's a early Sunday slot game. I recommend you just pay attention to his status and start him if he is available. Raiders edge rusher Mad Max Crosby, dealing with a knee issue, likely going to be limited all week. I'm not worried that he'll miss, and I don't think we'll see a dip in production. He was dealing with injury last week and had a great outing, so start with confidence should he be available. Dolphins edge rusher Jalen Phillips, limited with the oblique issue, still plagued by that injury. I'm going to avoid him right now. I think he plays, but we'll see a lot of the Ginkle monster limiting him. I would wait until he's fully ready. Vikings edge rusher Marcus Davenport, he's already missed 2 games this season because of the ankle injury that he's dealing with, so he's obviously limited by it. He did manage to get a sack to save his week last week, but I still don't fully trust him. If he has a good week this week, if he's active, then sure, I consider next week, but I'm not convinced just yet. Steelers edge rusher Alex Highsmith, dealing with the groin issue. He missed Thursday. He was back to limited on Friday. He plays in the early 1-0 on Sunday. He'll likely play, but I worry about the productivity there. If you have a backup, I would pivot just because he hasn't been productive the last 2 weeks. Damone Clark for the Dallas Cowboys, linebacker, dealing with the shoulder issue. Doesn't seem to be in any danger of missing this week. He has had a solid last 2 weeks. If you don't have another option to pop in there, I think you should be okay. Cheesehead linebacker Devondre Campbell, dealing with the ankle issue. He hasn't practiced all week. He's a Monday night game. I would find a different option. Chiefs linebacker Nick Bolton missed last 2 games with the ankle injury that is keeping him limited. He has a chance to return this week. I would give him a week to settle back into the role, as he's likely going to see a snap cap. Micah McFadden, Giants linebacker, dealing with the ankle injury that popped up on Wednesday. It doesn't seem like it's very serious, and he still has a shot to play on Sunday. I think he'll be active, and if he is, I wouldn't expect a massive day, especially if he was up every 2 hours crying with DC Wink Martindale. Packers DB Rudy Ford, dealing with the oblique issue. It's a Monday night game. He missed a practice this week. I don't like that. I would replace him. And lastly, questionable on defense, Nate Hobbs, Raiders defensive back, dealing with the ankle issue, hasn't practiced all week. You know what to do. Replace that guy. Gonna end this week with our good to go section. The man, the myth, the legend, Cooper Kupp, Rams wide receiver, is back off of IR with that hamstring issue. He's practiced fully the last 2 days. I'm a big Rams guy. I love seeing this dude on the field. Very interested to see how the dynamic between him and Puka is going to go. He shouldn't have any limitations injury-wise, so throw that boy out there. That is it for week 5. I already gave you guys my YouTube/podcast spiel, but again, make sure you're following the IDP show on every form of social media you can. These guys are very good at what they do. I win multiple weeks because of them and their defensive insight, so you're doing yourself a disservice if you're not staying ahead of the game. Best of luck this weekend. I wish you all the best, and I'll catch you in week 6.